We've talked a little bit about story arc, traditional story arc, throughout the semester so far. And I wanted to take a second, kind of break this out, because it applies to many of the films we have seen. And it's going to shift here as we move into the second half of the semester. There's lots of different ways that you can explain this story arc and this traditional story arc. One of the simplest is beginning, middle, and an end. It's the same kind of arc or storytelling that you'll find in the novels and literature. I've asked you to read the section in the textbook on this. It's chapter 3. What are the mechanics of story and plot? And the author puts forth a little formula and then goes on to explain it, that story, and then parenthetically action, plus plot equals narrative structure. There's some good points in there, and there's a couple of questions on the quiz that pull from that, so that's a good read. And then I wanted to share with you, this is the way that I actually teach traditional story arc to beginning filmmakers. And what I have here is kind of a chart, a graph. On the left-hand side is intensity. On the right-hand, on the bottom is time. So in your story, as you move through this arc here, you should be increasing the intensity of the action within the film, and you're driving it to some climactic event in the movie, okay? To begin with, the setup takes place here, and that's generally where we get to meet character, time, place. Is the protagonist rich or poor? What cultures do they come from? All this kind of takes place in what's called the setup. And then generally there's an action event that takes place here that then propels the protagonist in a different direction. As you're increasing intensity here, the protagonist is oftentimes overcoming obstacles, and it's driven by time to this particular event. The protagonist usually will succeed or fail, and then there's some resolution. So did they learn anything? Was there a moral tale to this that we see because the protagonist either failed or succeeded? And then, of course, the movie ends. So I find looking at stories this way real easy to decode. It helps decoding. And you know, if we apply a movie that most everybody has seen, The Lord of the Rings fits this to a T. So in The Lord of the Rings, it opens in the Shire, right? And Gandalf appears, and then the ring takes on a new meaning. This is setting up who hobbits are, where they come from, their idyllic world, and then Gandalf and the ring brings the first turning point. And it also sets up the climactic event, which is the ring, we discover, can only be destroyed in Mount Doom. So once the turning point is brought to bear, now the whole rest of the 3 movies are about Frodo trying to get to Mount Doom and destroy the ring. So it's overcoming all those obstacles to get to the climactic event, and then of course the resolution. and the end of the three films. But you can break it down and you can see how it works based on this chart quite nicely. So traditional story arc, there it is. We see it in this week's movie, and then we're going to see it start to shift with the next half of the class. We'll still see traditional story arc, but we'll also see it manipulated and changed around. Okay, thanks.